What you are listening to is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in the squared circle. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their cases and have their disputes settled here in our forum, the Turnbuckle Debate.
Everyone, welcome back to the Turnbuckle Debate. My name is Sneed.
I'm Chad.
And I am the staple remover, the voice of your adulthood, Mr. Boney Shivani.
I love it. And we have our two special guests joining us from the ExtraCooler Show. We have Nick and Matt. What's going on, fellas?
How's it going, guys? We're pumped to be here.
Excited to have you guys here, man.
Yeah, it's Nick's first time. Matt, second returning.
Yep.
Coming back. I've got my ExtraCooler shirt on, totally shilling for the boys.
Love it.
Yeah, we're pumped to have you guys. For anyone not in the know that listens to the Turnbuckle Debate, let them know a little bit about the ExtraCooler Show.
All right. So, probably about almost 6 years now. I started this account for me to draw ExtraCooler on Instagram, and man, that all started with me just wanting a different shirt to wear to SummerSlam, to the Barclays, because I didn't want the same old WWE shop garbage. And then it just kind of took off. And since then I've, illustrated a book and done a lot of work for some cool people. And after, probably years of hounding me, Matt and two of my other best friends, Mike and Jim, they convinced me to start this podcast, the ExtraCooler Show. And, we didn't know what to do, trying to find our little area out there in the wrestling podcast world. And we play off the idea that I'm a teacher, and I give the guys homework every week, and we cover an old school match or an old school pay-per-view and just have a blast. And, we've been touching on some AEW and some WWE current product, and we have a blast.
Yeah, I love the show. Like, I love how you guys dive into these old things, and I even like when you dive into the new stuff. It's interesting to hear your guys' takes. Like, do you think you guys diving back into your childhood stuff, does it stoke your fandom even more, like revisiting stuff like that?
I think so. I mean, it's honestly there's such a mix of what's going on right now in wrestling, and there's so much, but that, like you said, it just relights the fire. Like, this is what I fell in love with, and this is what I have loved over the last 30 plus years.
Absolutely.
It's it's cheesy and lame, but it's Valentine's Day, right? So let's be cheesy and lame. But it's been really cool for the four of us to grow even closer. And I know pandemic and us being away and not being able to hang out as frequently as we would, and Jim is 6 hours away from the other three of us. So it's been a good excuse for us to hang out. And ultimately that's where it started, with pandemic late night drinks in hand and watching the WWE network at the time, picking a match and just BSing and having a good time. And finally, just like this, and getting him on this show, I finally got him to say yes to the podcast, and here we are. And more importantly, here we are at the Tavern. Finally got him.
That's such a great point. Me and Sneed and everyone associated with the Tavern, we all talk about it it's a hang, man. You're getting to hang out with cool dudes. We've met people that we've Boney and Tom, never met them in person, but we've formed these friendships just through our love of pro wrestling. And what's better than that?
Right.
Hell yeah.
It's amazing. Sheena from the Chick Foley Show was one of the first people that I reached out to when I started ExtraCooler 6 years ago. And I was like, hey, I'm starting this. Can you help me out? Where do you think this fits in? And she's awesome. And so,
she is awesome.
It's cool to have, like you said, have become friends with all you guys and them over at the Chick Foley Show through all this. And we're very thankful.
Oh, the Pod Foundation group on Instagram. I love it, man. It's got some of the best hot takes, people going back and forth, all in the love of pro wrestling. It's the best.
Amen.
And it's crazy, when me and Chad started, we started it during the pandemic, and it was just me and him talking. We didn't think we'd ever have anybody else to talk to about it.
Yeah, right.
It's wild.
When we started. Now there's so many community. It's awesome.
The power of the internet.
Yeah, man.
Content kings over here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we should probably go ahead and get started with why we're here. You guys want to get right into the first question of the evening?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
All right, let's go. So, since it is Valentine's Day, we'll go with a little heartbreak kid question. Our first question is, what is HBK's best era, 92 to 95, 96 through 98, or post 2002?
So when you guys think of these eras, what would you name them? I think 92 to 95 to me is the heartbreak era.
It's heartbreak, yeah.
Yep.
96 to 98, would that just be kind of the attitude era of Shawn Michaels, maybe?
DX.
Yeah,
DX.
I'm thinking DX.
Yeah, even though it was a short segment in that, but
The best segment of it.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Ooh, very in the lead here, Nick.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Take it, dude. Take it.
No. I listen, that could go off in a different tangent, but what I was implying was the best version of DX, in my opinion. Is,
100%.
the original
Yeah.
and Shawn.
Okay.
So
Let's not even talk
Yeah.
about post 2002
No.
DX.
No,
Oh.
that doesn't count.
No.
I'll go ahead and take it. I mean, if you guys will, I'll just
Go
set
for
the
it.
table to get everyone stirred up. I think like this is a hard one for me because I think I'm real quick to jump at 96 to 98. I think that's the one I connect to the most. That's when I was a teenager. That's when I was like totally enthralled in the Attitude Era. I mean, that's when Shawn picked up at the start of that run, 96 to 98. That's when he picked up his second Rumble win, that back-to-back win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when he had one of my favorite matches, the Mankind Mind Games match. The
Yep.
Bret Hart Iron Man match, the entire Hart Foundation DX feud, the formation of DX, a lot of stuff there. But then I look at 92 to 95, you've got the birth of HBK. You've got him with Sensational Sherry. You've got the feud with Jannetty coming out of the barbershop. You've got his first Rumble win, the Diesel Association, Razor Ramon, WrestleMania 10, all of his IC title reigns. Even the In Your House with Jeff Jarrett was an underrated match with HBK. And post 2002, though, I think that's what I got to go with. Like if I just strip away my nostalgia and look at the body of work this dude did, you're talking about the Triple H feud with that SummerSlam match. You're talking about all the Taker Mania matches, incredible. The Ric Flair Retirement Mania match, his Jericho feud, incredible, like so good.
Yep.
His Kurt Angle Mania match. So I'm going to go post 2002. I think it's almost borderline heresy for me to say that just because I'm such a DX fan. I'm such a Heartbreak Kid fan. But the thing that tipped it for me, 96 to 98 had three little things that kind of kept me from picking that. He lost his smile, the curtain call, and the Montreal screw job. Those three things I'm like, okay, I'll go based purely on match quality. I'll go post 2002. What do you dudes think?
All right.
So I'm diving in, Nick. I'm chopping you up right now because I don't want to get lost in the shuffle, and I'm gonna allow you your time. I'm gonna be Kanye right now. Just jump in. So, Chad, I'm right there with you, man. Like if you there's two ways of looking at this, and as soon as the question came across, I looked at it and I was like 96, 98. There's no decision to be had here. It's easy. Jumps off the page at you because that's when the biggest impact on the business happened, right? So all of the important things that you brought across, including the screw job, including the click and the curtain call. But if you're talking about just pure his best era performance wise, and he became Mr. WrestleMania in the post 2002 era, he put up all of those main event matches. He had the Undertaker, the Angle, the Jericho, everything that he put forward in that post 2002, and even the impact he's still making today in NXT for better or for worse, but 2.0, I know what it is. I don't want to talk about it, but like post 2002 is when he cemented himself as, the Hall of Fame first ballot best there
Mr.
ever was.
WrestleMania.
Yep.
Amen.
Yeah.
So, Nick, sorry, I needed to get that in before I allow you to
No,
go.
I was gonna say to Chad, Jim and I have been best friends since we were in second grade, like inseparable. And we would always say to someone when they had, the same train of thought, we'd be like, would you read the script today? So I was going to say to you, would you read my script today, Chad? Because I was thinking the same thing. And going back to how you'd name the eras, for me, it's that first era is like elementary school Nick. Then there's high school Nick. And then there's like post-college Nick.
Yeah.
And like that middle era, I, like Jim would tell you, and Mike, in high school, I probably thought I was Shawn Michaels. Not the best thing to admit out in the open. But man, I can remember going to CVS, and my grandparents were with me, and they were like, you could pick out one thing. I went right to the magazine section, and I picked out the WWF magazine that had Shawn Michaels on it for the first time. And all you see is Shawn, and there's a bunch of hands reaching in, like female hands.
I remember.
Oh, yeah.
And it was that moment that I was like, this is my guy. That's my favorite wrestler. And from that moment on, I've been a Shawn guy. But man, it's hard to disagree with you guys. The 96, 97, 98 era is my favorite. But I think that 2002 on, just for the Jericho feud and the Undertaker matches alone, man, it's hard to come up with much of a debate when you guys read the script.
I got a little bit of go ahead, Steve.
Well, I was just going to say, so for me, there were two that I struggled to pick between, and that was the 2002 and the Heartbreak Kid era.
I love it.
So it's hard, I'm going to start the debate then, because I'm going to pick the Heartbreak Kid era. I think
do it.
And I think it's because coming out of the Rockers and him coming into his own at that time, I think he helped carry that era through, and with his feuds with Brett, with the Intercontinental title. He had 3 Intercontinental title runs.
Yep.
He had he had the ladder match with Razor. I mean, everything
iconic.
with Diesel with the being the bodyguard, and then having the tag team titles at that time. I think that's what set him up to be what he was from 96 on. And the change that he made from the Rockers into the Heartbreak Kid to reinvent that character, to make yourself into that, I think that to me solidifies it as his best era.
I love that take too, because honestly, like, there's an argument to be had that out of everything, just solely Shawn Michaels, there's an argument to be had that his most impactful moment, as far as in the minds of wrestling fans, the fucking barbershop window, man. Yeah. I mean, that is like burned into my brain.
As a kid, that was just like that was so impactful for me.
I think besides Hulk Hogan, that's the greatest heel turn.
Seeing him at WrestleMania 8 when he came out and fought Tito Santana, like when he, like, it was such a new thing to see him come out with this, doing the hair and having the white leather and stuff like that. And then when Sherry. And then one of my favorite Mania things, which is probably not, it's not a huge Mania thing, but I loved in WrestleMania 10 at Caesar's Palace when he came out and it was daylight and they're out there. And I believe he wrestled Tatanka on that.
Yeah, it was 9. WrestleMania
9. Yeah. So the Caesar's Palace one, there's just
a great match.
He opened it up.
Yeah. And just to see him come into his own at that and just evolve that character into what it was. For me,
and that's the era that gave us Sexy Boy. I mean,
I muted that. I muted that every time my mom would come downstairs and I'd be watching Superstars. Like, oh crap, I don't want her to hear this. Like how embarrassing.
But Steve, remember when
when he sang the song though? He sang the song, and then they did the version with Sherry.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was actually
Steve, you dropped. Sneed, you dropped a really important word when we talk about Shawn Michaels, and it's evolve. Like, if you look at him and his entire career, there is a like complete story. And I think even Shawn himself has talked about it in like later years about how it's so unique to have a guy that you can even go back to pre-WWF where his story just continues and continues and continues. And that's what makes this even harder, is that it blends right in from one era to the next. And, all-time great doesn't even do him justice when you talk about it. And man, this was an awesome question.
Yeah. So I've got a little bit of a hot take. So first of all, any wrestling fan to another fresh wrestling fan can go, "Oh, Shawn," and they won't ever look weird upon. There's a couple of things that you brought to mind though in the Heartbreak era. It's the little things. Bobby Heenan would always whistle his theme song.
Yeah.
Yep. It was so great. But so y'all were talking about the 2002 era. This is my hot take.
Ooh.
I think it's actually the worst out of the three.
Whoa!
Why? Because of the Dutch boy haircut?
No, well, that's part of it. He had
brown elimination chamber tights.
Yes, the Pooh Brown elimination.
His match against God. When God was his partner or whatever.
God was his partner. Yeah, he unequivocally had the best matches during that era. However, he was very one-dimensional at that time, in my opinion. Just like, I'm a God-fearing man, and I'm here. I'm a Texas boy.
Yeah.
That 96 to 98. Look, I know I get it. The loss of smile, but that if you go back and look at, I'm a huge fan of fall 97 wrestling.
Yes, best era. That's my favorite
era, and
in both companies.
Yes, in both companies.
In both companies at the time.
He was killing it on the mic every single week. And not just because of the, sexual innuendo jokes and all that crap, but just the attitude. I mean, he's literally the one that brought in the attitude.
Yes. Yep.
In my opinion, that's who brought it in. And even Bruce Pritchard said, Shawn was coming back to us and said, we need more attitude. And Vince was like, yeah, we need more attitude. Wow. So, I just think, for me personally, I became a Shawn fan in 1996 when he was with the chase for the title towards Brett.
Boyhood dream.
Boyhood dream. WrestleMania 12 was one of the first WrestleManias I bought, like, since WrestleMania 6 live, because I didn't really buy a whole lot of pay-per-views as a kid. I was like, Mom, Dad, I got to get this one. And so I got that one, and I just was in awe of that match. And, I mean, I wore that tape out, So, I mean, it holds up for me to this day. And then you go into that run. I think that run as champion is kind of underrated a little bit, in the summer, because he was going up against NWO. So I think without NWO, it would have been miles over anything else he had, because you had the matches with Bulldog, you had the matches with Vader, Mankind, Sid,
Taker.
I mean, Taker. Yeah. I mean, there's so much impactful stuff in a short period of time. That's why I'm going 96, 98.
And something we haven't even mentioned during that 96 to 98 run, that was also, he was in the first Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
That's the big thing to stake claim to.
One of the best Hell in a Cell matches.
Yeah,
and,
man.
And like you said, like, to piggyback off of that, without that era and his involvement, I don't know if the Attitude Era gets to where it got to in WWF at the time. Austin always gets the high praise, but really, right there with him.
Shawn set the table for it.
Yep.
Shawn is my absolute favorite, just like yours is.
Right.
He's like my number one, and then it's like close 2, 3, 4, like interchange. But Shawn's always just been, like, for me, the guy. He'll always be the guy. And as a kid, I was not a Shawn fan, mainly to. That's why it's tough. It really is a tough question, but that's why I think 2002 though is ultimately the worst, because it just was like he was just there. He never had that big title run,
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the matches were bigger, but the thing about 96, 98 to like the thing that made that special as far as just Sean, if you think about 96 to 98, that is like the true moment where he had the youthful exuberance to lay it on the fucking line,
right.
but he was also like super seasoned. So you know, a lot of times you'll have the reckless nature of a young performer, but they're not well polished yet. I feel like that little era is when those two things kind of shook hands. Like we saw him completely be polished, but at the same time, he was still like an extreme risk taker. Not to say that he wasn't taking risks even in his later matches, because I think some of those taker matches, some of the stuff he did in that was incredible.
Oh, wild.
Like, you talk about HBK being, you know, I know you guys love him. That's your guy too, Boney. Like, even if you're not an HBK guy, like if he's not your main guy, he has had feuds with your main guy that are incredible. If you're a Bret Hart guy, there you go. If you're a Stone Cold guy, for me, I'm a Jericho guy. Jericho's my all-time favorite. So I love that little feud they had. Not only, I think they had Mania 2003 match, and then they had the 2009 when doesn't he hit Shawn Michaels' wife like that?
Yeah. So that was like a year angle.
Yeah.
The Geritron shot.
Yeah. When we first got the network, Matt and I would be like, I gotta watch this storyline from beginning to end, because it's just the storytelling's incredible.
And that was,
supposed to be like a
tie Jericho, the quiet Jericho.
Love it. I'm a Jericho guy too. He's my number one. And
I had the Monday Nitro Jericho Holics t-shirt. Oh,
I still have the Raw as Jericho shirt. I made sure to wear it to all the Wrestling for Sale pop-ups that we did.
All right, fellas. Well, I think we can all agree Shawn Michaels is probably one of the best ever, no matter what the era is. So shout out to our friend Mike DeLeon too. He's a big. We should have had him on to talk about
big Shawn Michaels guy,
as he's the biggest
Texas guy.
Yep. All right, so you guys ready to move into the next topic?
Let's do it.
Yes, sir.
Let's do. All right. Our second topic of the evening is the AEW title not being involved in the main storyline bad for AEW. Right.
Man, I had an answer to this question, and then last night had to happen.
Yeah, I know.
So let's go right there. So even last night, sure, the title was the main event. It was what went off the air. But now today, or after Dynamite, which was an incredible, absolutely banger of a Dynamite, you're talking about Keith Lee, you're talking about Switchblade, and you're talking about Adam Cole at the end, which then can tie back into the title picture. But for the last few months, it's felt like the title has been secondary. And I know that it's supposed to have this prestige, and they talk about it as being the most important title in all of wrestling. And these decisions, and I know when you inject a Punk, when you inject, a Moxley story, things like that, it sucks up the attention and it gets it there. So at the end of the day, I think it's not hurting the brand. It's not hurting the company, because it's showing that they can stand on their own 2 feet with or without this main title picture, which, the Roman verse on the other channel is not proving to be able to do. But in the same breath, you're talking about it being the most important title. And I think it takes away from that and that statement and what they're trying to portray with this, this old school title, because you don't see Hangman every week. So for me, I just think it takes away from the importance of the title, but not necessarily from AEW.
You know what it reminds me of? And when Matt and I were talking about proposing this question to you guys, it reminds me of what we were just talking about, and that whole Shawn Michaels era, not to go and continue the conversation, but when he was a champion going into WrestleMania 14, the main story every week was Stone Cold and what Vince and Stone Cold had to do with each other. And Shawn was the champion. And man, I don't know. I go back and forth, because I want that title to be, or maybe we're just so trained that the title should be the number one topic and the most important thing on the card. But man, I go back to that and I'm like, well, it worked for Sean and I loved it then and I loved Austin. And so why can't we have both?
I think we're trained that way because it should be the most important thing on the card.
Mm-hmm.
I think the world title should be the end all be all, but Matt kind of alluded to this. I think it's not. I think they have been booking it a little weird since Hangman won, but I don't necessarily put that fault on Hangman's shoulders itself. I think it's the circumstance of having this influx of talent.
Yes.
I think shit is being spread thin because I do think prior to Hangman's run, that belt has meant something. Moxley's run meant something. Omega's run was great. Jericho's first run, phenomenal. Like this is the first time, and I do think like a lot of fans are being hard on Hangman, where it's like I think he's doing with the time he has, he's doing pretty great. Yeah, like those matches, his matches have been phenomenal. The two Bryan Danielson matches, the Omega match, that Texas Death match was a lot of fun for what it was, a car crash, but like he is catching the flack of this, where to me it's all about they're just now getting their feet under them since All Out. Like All Out, after All Out and Adam Cole and all those people, it's like there was so much shifting and like where are we going with this? I don't know. I think the belt does mean something, but the situation of the company itself is to blame for the belt maybe not feeling as special right now.
Right. I agree. I think it's more the booking, and like you guys have been critical the last couple of weeks, I have been critical as well too of the booking. Now this past week has been different. And I think the absence of the title, we really haven't seen the title, kind of shows you how and why it is important. I mean, the last time we saw Page in a match was beginning of January, right? Or the end of December, beginning of January, or something like that. In the match with Danielson. And of course that was an amazing match. And, after that, it was it. They were just kept building to Lance Archer for 3-4 weeks. And it just got stale. Now the match was great. It was good last night. Like I had no issues. And I agree to your point. People have been hard on Hangman. They're not focused on the booking.
Right.
And the booking has been bad of Hangman. So
I think last night did wonders for Hangman.
Yes,
because
I agree.
If you look at his previous matches, like Omega and Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson or whatever, I'm going to mess up his name for eternity. But like those two guys, I could step in the ring and they could probably put on a good match. But last night was car crash, but the storytelling in it was awesome. Yes. And I'm not a Lance Archer guy by any means. And maybe I just haven't paid attention enough to him outside of AEW, but like last night, that match was just so much fun to watch. And I think it did just so much for Hangman at the end of the day, because he proved that he could put on an amazing match and be super entertaining even without the other two, which are arguably 5-star match machines.
Right.
Yeah. I think going off of that with Lance Archer, no knock on the guy, but there's so much other talent that when he came out to challenge Hangman, it was kind of like, really, this is out of all the guys, this is where we're going with this. And I think that was what let most people down. Knowing that they have so much talent, whether it's Daniel Bryan, where it's Punk,
and I think we've talked about it in the last few weeks, and Boney alluded to it, like the booking issue. The problem I have with them trotting Lance Archer out, it's like, dude, we're about 2 months away from a pay-per-view.
Right.
Give us a long story, because I know this isn't going to be Hangman's pay-per-view match. So that tells me you're going to kind of blow this one off fairly quick. And then you're going to leave us with little time to set up the pay-per-view match. That's the problem I had with it.
Yeah, and that's what we all can't
another
stand
issue
about WWE's booking.
Exactly.
Is the short storytelling.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. Another issue too I had going back to like the last Dynamite of the year, whenever basically MJF and CM Punk seemingly said, "All right, we're going to squash this for now. We're going to be focused on the title," and then the next week they went back to their feud. It like put the title on the back burner. That was another thing too that kind of. I feel like it killed the momentum of MJF and CM Punk, which they quickly got it back on track. But at the same time, it took that title as like, oh, this is not that important. You know, it's important for me to talk trash to this other person. You know,
Right.
That was another thing that I think it was kind of a critical spot right there, and it didn't do Hangman any favors, didn't do the title any favors at that point.
So
Steve,
how did they fix it? Sorry, Steve, go right ahead.
Well, I was, as far as being bad for AEW, I don't think it's bad right now, because I think it's like a snow globe was shaken up after All Out, and we're just now it's settling now.
Yeah,
and I think those 4 months that we've had not really a big focus on the title since then. I don't think it's a bad thing, because I think now, especially after what happened on Wednesday when Adam Cole came out, and there's something else that happened too that I think it shows me that it's going to be a big focus going forward, is that MJF also said, I want to be world champion. So I don't think there's going to be any lack of story with the world title going forward with Adam Cole.
Yeah.
And now and I think it just took them a minute to get their feet under him. So I don't think it's been a bad thing, because also what's carried it a little bit for me has been the TNT championship. Like, that story has been fun too. And it kind of reminds me of back in the day when the Intercontinental title meant something and you didn't have the world title all the time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's exactly what Tony Khan's going for right there.
Yeah. And there's a balance you have to do with, like, you know, people always, you hear a lot of, you got to have that title on TV. You got to defend that world title on TV. Dude, Hogan
Never.
hardly ever defended it. But what you do have to have, you have to have the champion in some capacity to remind us that he's there.
Right.
To get us to want him, to get us to want to see him have those big matches. I think they didn't do a great job of that. Like when Hangman was not having those 5-star matches.
Do we lose Chad?
Seems like we've got frozen Chad here, but I'll pick up where he was, I think, maybe going. Looks like he may be back, but like, they did a better job at displaying Hangman when he was lost and he was drinking and he had the Dark Order like trying to pick him up and redirect him. And then over the last few weeks, he's kind of been MIA, and the title in turn has been MIA because of that. So I don't know, like what Chad, you were saying before.
Oh, I think we lost it. Oh, he's back. Maybe.
But let's go to the TNT title real quick too. But it feels like they're pressing the fast forward button with that one. And you had the 2 title angle, and now Sammy's still carrying around 2 belts. And like Cody was gone for 2 weeks, and that was enough to like bring out a second title. It just feels like the title picture on both. And I respect what they're doing and trying to make it that workers title and that title that's going to be on television every single week. And I believe that's what it should be. Absolutely. But it just feels like the storytelling has kind of been put in a microwave right now. And everything is like exactly what you guys are saying of like, they got to get their feet underneath them. And that snow globe analogy is perfect. Like, awesome.
I agree.
So them being able to get their feet wet get their feet sturdy again, and to be able to assess, you know, who's going to be where and place things in. But they've got a ton of big names that are super important and need the time on television. And I think that we need to find or AEW needs to find a Hogan must pose kind of thing for Hangman, and Hangman must cheers, Hangman must booze, like whoever knows what it is, but like he needs something where he's the one ending the show, even if it's just a, tip of the hat, tip of the glass, whatever it may be.
Right. I agree. Chad's back.
Yeah. Did I just freeze up and then?
Yep. Froze up and
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. My internet crashed, so I'm back.
But yeah, so and I agree with that. And I think if we're fantasy booking, I think there's a lot of good story coming. So anybody have any final thoughts before we move on to our final topic? All right.
Nope.
All right. Well, let's move on to the final topic of the evening. And I love the way this question's worded. So if hell froze over and Shane McMahon arrived in AEW, would it help or hurt the promotion?
Here comes the pink slip. Man, I like I mentioned on the Raw Down, what a great Dark Side of the Ring episode this would be. Like the relationship between Vince and Shane. Like somebody put the meme from Will Smith, like, why you don't want me, man?
Yeah.
Oh man, talk about daddy issues. God, would it hurt or help AEW? Here comes the money. Here it comes. I mean, I'm kind of torn on this because, man, what great television would it be? Yeah. I mean, to have Shane McMahon, I mean, this is like fantasy fig-fed, basement-dwelling, Cheeto-eating, loving,
Mountain Dew red code drinking.
Like, just completely amazing stuff. But I'm leaning towards they don't need them. I mean, they definitely don't need them. It just would be more out of pure, like, watching a car crash to just seeing how. The only thing I guess maybe was how would WWE react to it is what I'd be interested in seeing. I guess that's ultimately, like, if I would want to see it, if that were to happen, I would want to see WWE react. If they just do it where they're doing this no sell crap or under the radar no sell, then I'm like, no, get it off my TV. I don't want to see it. But I want to see WWE react to it and have something, fight or whatever. So that would be my answer. If WWE reacts to it, it would be good. However, other than that, get it off my TV.
I think there's two situations. Would it hurt short term? Would it hurt long term? Long term, it would hurt the company. I think Shane McMahon is not a good person for that locker room morale to have in the company. No. Short term, you trot him out on Dynamite, you're blowing a huge fucking rating. That's one of the biggest stories in pro wrestling. I think it instantly, in the short term, makes WWE sit up in their seat like, what's going on? I think you attach Shane McMahon with this Cody Rhodes thing.
God.
Like him not signing the contract, you do a heel turn and bring in Shane McMahon, like you instantly make Cody Rhodes the most hated man. You make Shane McMahon kind of his mouthpiece or his associate. That's money, man. But I just think, is it worth it in the long term to do that? I think it would be worth it. I think you bring him in for a year run, get him out of there. But God, could you imagine him and Cody Rhodes, the heat they would get?
Oh my God.
I'm dusting the Cheetos off my shirt right now.
You guys do this at least once an episode where you're talking about something and I go, oh man, you got to book this right now. And I came into this and I didn't think of the reaction from the WWE side. That's Boney, you're dead on. That's a big piece of this. I had the exact same take as what Chad just said of long-term, short-term, except I took it to, it's going to bring in casuals. It's going to bring in the WWE side of things, and you're going to pop a big rating for a couple weeks, a couple months, depends on how they use it. But how are the hardcores going to react? How are they going to reject him? But then you put him next to Cody.
It makes it all right.
Bravo. Like then it's okay. So I was sitting here ready to go. No, don't even let's not even talk about this because I didn't see that side, but oh damn, some good booking alongside of it. Like shit.
That's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
You throw him with the guy that the fans want to hate right now. Dude, any McMahon comes in that company, they are public enemy number 1 in AEW.
Mm-hmm. But let's go back to the last question of you're taking more away from the main title unless you shoved Cody and Shane right into that title picture.
Give him the belt. Have him break his promise. Give him the belt.
Yeah.
You did it again, guys.
Yeah.
You did it again.
Yep. Matt will always like text me and be like, you got to listen to this part of the debate. Like I got here. Cause he always gets on you guys like right away when you drop your episode and you always flip it. And kudos to you guys, but man, this guy, Shane McMahon, is a heat magnet and I can't stand him. I said on our show right after the Rumble, I said, he's got 3 sons and I can guarantee you 2 out of 3 of them can't stand him. You know, like, man, I'm so torn. I think because of the long term, I don't want to see him there. I don't want to see him on my TV at all, period. But I do love a good, a little bit of heat somewhere. So for that reason alone, I would welcome it.
Those little short punches as I punch my microphone.
Oh
Sorry.
man, no. he's the worst. He's his dad's a better worker than him, and his dad's not a great worker.
Yeah,
like at least his dad does a leg drop properly. You know?
I don't want him in the ring. If him being in AEW means he's having matches, keep him out of there. If he's just being like the Paul Heyman to Cody Rhodes, I'm in.
The second you see him with that baseball jersey on, you're like, oh no, get off my TV.
Get out.
Nope.
Okay, can you imagine that?
Jericho.
On the back of it, Shane's All Elite. On the back of it. Make me vomit right now.
I think bring him in short term. And then get him out and just do it as I don't think keep him there for a long time. Come in, have a program, and then get him out. I think that's all he's really good for anyway. I don't really care for him a whole lot. But I think that it'd be a good fuck you to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like if everything that happened with the Rumble, and if they're having, I feel like they haven't had the best relationship ever. But man, if you really want to give a good just up your ass to your dad, like this, like I think that's the way to do it. And just real quick too, I think it'd be fun, but not long term. Definitely not long term. No baseball jerseys.
Yeah. I think this decision would be there's bigger ramifications to the decision to bring him in than just the story itself. And because I think it's similar to McMahon bringing in Bischoff after the purchase of WCW. Right. Like they didn't like each other. This guy tried to put you out of business, but Vince knew this is huge. This would be good for business. People would want to see this. So he put all of his personal stuff aside and brought him in for the betterment of the story. I think like this is a decision. If Tony Khan would make it, of course you have to make sure Shane is on a leash. You can't give him any power, all of that.
Yeah.
But like, this is a decision. If Tony Khan would make this decision, that's a big boy decision. That's a not letting your feelings get in the way of business. That's like, it's very easy to be like, no, he's competition. I would never sign him, but that's a big boy. Like, okay, this would be huge.
You're making a move.
Yeah.
What's the Tony Khan tweet to tease this entrance?
I do not give him an.
That's rhetorical. Don't go there.
Yeah. Give him a graphic on social media.
Yeah. I think I mentioned this on the Raw now. I think Shane would serve best by buying ROH. And I know this is taking the debate question off a little bit of a tangent, because the question is does he work in AEW or not, right? But I think he would, like, if he goes in and out and buys an ROH, man, I think he could really spice up ROH a good bit.
Like the problem
it's going to look like,
have,
really.
No,
go ahead.
No. What I was going to say is the issue I would have is, let's say he worked with ROH. I would look at it like always like, all right, is this a work? Is it real life? Like, did he actually buy it? Is it a work? You know what I mean? Like, so how serious could you take it? I don't know, man. Shane McMahon drives me crazy.
It
couldn't be on any Sinclair broadcasting channel. So
right.
No more in between infomercials,
Right.
no more of that crap. He would have to take it, put it on a national platform. I don't know what that would be really. I'm trying to think what that would look like, but maybe he's kind of proved himself outside of WWE a little bit, with his with running the streaming service he had. I think he ultimately he is a McMahon. McMahon has a great mind for business. If he gets the right people around him, just like Pop did in the 80s and 90s, I think he could do something good with ROH. That's my opinion, and mainly because ROH already has that little bit brain identity already, and I don't know. That's my opinion.
I'm not convinced he is a guy who could run creative for a company.
No,
like that's his dad. He is the son of a guy who did that. Like,
right.
Like he's obviously built this character where he could portray a character on TV, but I'm not convinced if you give him Impact or an ROH or any company that he kind of takes over, like, would that be successful?
He would only be able to control the business portion of it.
Right.
I believe not. That's why I say he has to have the right people around him. He's got to go out and find a Pat Patterson, a Gerald Briscoe, a Bruce Pritchard, those guys to help him run it and help him run the creative. Ultimately, I mean, have it where the buck stops him, but he's got to have the mind to be like, look, no, this is how you have to do this.
Right.
And he's got to be open to listening too. So,
do you think he would, a situation like that too? Like, I feel like he would always be under the shadow of his dad. Like now he's running a company, like, would anyone really take him seriously? I feel like if Triple H would take over ROH, he's so established as an NXT guy. I feel like fans would be like more excited about that than a Shane McMahon taking over a company.
As long as he doesn't let his feelings get in the way, that's up to him.
Yeah.
That's up to him to decide. Because if he's gonna allow people to be like, oh well, you're just a rip off of Vince.
Yeah.
Then if you're gonna let that get to you, then guess what? You are going to be a rip off of Vince. Then
So you just prove that this can't happen because of all of the dirt sheet rumors about Royal Rumble. Like, we should just wash our hands, get rid of the idea, because he obviously can't book, and he obviously can't hold a locker room to raise morale or anything like that. But maybe my nose is dirty because I'm reading the books or reading the sheets.
I'm with you.
I love the story with him and Orton. How Orton was like, Orton said he was supposed to go at 29, and Orton was number 29. And Orton just started laughing like, well, your music's about to hit, so you better get out of there because I'm not coming out to your music. But it'll be interesting to see what would happen to him if he did AEW. But ultimately, I think ROH or buying a company would be the thing to do.
As much as my fantasy booking just makes me get starry-eyed and like, oh, it would be so good, I think that's one of those ideas that is almost that has to live in the fantasy of the fans. I don't think it could ever truly happen just because all of the possible negative effects it could cause.
Right. Yeah. Long term, like you said, long term, man. It's just not good.
Yeah.
It's not going to end well.
It feels like it erodes a lot of what has brought people over to AEW, and it would just it would run away with all of the goodwill that the company has put forward over the last few years.
Yeah, fans are tore up about Dan Lambert Like they can't even handle Dan Lambert. Could you imagine Shane McMahon coming in and shitting on the AEW fan base? They would have a conniption fit. A lot of those AEW fans, like the social media fans on Twitter, there are some thin-skinned people, man. Like it's pro
Very
wrestling.
much
Let's
so.
enjoy the heat.
Yeah.
If I see Shane McMahon show up, I've got kind of PTSD thinking I'm going to see a simulcast or something.
Yeah. Yep.
I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say you were going to go jump off a Hell in a Cell or something.
There's a name there's a McMahon on the contract,
but it's not Vince.
It's not Vince.
God.
All right, guys. Anybody have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Fun show.
Yeah,
Awesome
man.
time. Yeah.
Good shit, pal.
It was a blast. Great topics.
Yeah, we got to have you guys back on too, man. Tell everybody where they can find you guys on social media, all of your stuff.
Yep, you can find me, Nick, at ExtraCooler on Instagram and Twitter. And man, I've got some exciting stuff dropping along with the show, the ExtraCooler Show, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Awesome. Well, it's been a blast having you guys on. That's going to wrap us up for this week. Make sure you guys are tuning in to everything that we have going on over at the Pod Foundation. Actually, you can find all of us over at the Pod Foundation now. So at Pod Foundation for Chalkline, save yourself 10% with code PF10.
Yeah, and Tom's listening right now, and he's really jealous he wasn't here tonight, and it's making me very happy. Sorry, Tom.
Miss you, Tom.
He's called and texted me both since we've been on here.
Oh, man.
Yeah. All right, court is dismissed.
Thanks for having us, guys.